WoW players will always trade any amount of fun in exchange for the tiniest morsel of efficiency. The most minimal, insignificant advantage is worth more than any amount of enjoyment. This has never been more clearly on display than during these last few years of Classic. Remember that epic adventure through Azeroth everyone was so excited about before Classic launched? Well, all it took was a few YouTube videos explaining how dungeon grinding was slightly more efficient than questing, to have all these classic Andes throw away a decade's worth of nostalgia just to hit 60 slightly faster. And who could forget when everyone would stack full world buffs on their main and then log out for the rest of the week just so they could have a chance at doing high DPS in some of the easiest raid content in WoW history. With Wrath coming out soon, are we doomed to head down this same path yet again? This is the last expansion in the Classic Trilogy, and this is our last chance at a Classic experience. Maybe we should take a few minutes to evaluate our approach. This efficiency-first attitude is just as pervasive today as it was back then, and it permeates every corner of gameplay, from leveling to gearing to endgame raiding. While players are more results-driven than ever, it's no longer about the journey, it's all destination. The only thing that matters is progress and achieving goals. And I want you to really ask yourself, is it really fun to play that way? A lot of people will say yes, but I think the kind of fun they're describing is a little bit different than the kind of genuine enjoyment that I'm talking about. The way modern gamers approach WoW not only flies in the face of how it was originally designed to be experience, but is antithetical to having fun in the first place. The community expects players to use every possible advantage that's available to them, whether or not it leads to a better experience. Actually, one of the most commonly overlooked instances of optimizing the fun out of the game is the ubiquity of endgame raid add-ons and guides. It's become entirely normal and expected for every player to use things that trivializes content they've never even seen before. Even when a new raid tier like Sunwell is released, where 99% of players have never even set foot inside, you're expected to have read up on the fights and install add-ons that essentially play the game for you. And players don't even realize what they're giving up by doing this. They're trading the joy of discovery and the deep satisfaction of taking down a difficult challenge for nothing more than some extra purple loot. And it's so strange because we don't approach other games this way. There are guides and walkthroughs for just about every game in existence, but just because the answers are out there doesn't mean you have to use them. What other game do we use third-party software to tell us where to move and how to play? Let's imagine for a moment when Elden Ring was released, every single player, before they even turned the game on for the first time, installed a third-party add-on that announced when a boss was going to hit you and told you when and where to dodge. Do you think that would have any impact on your overall experience? It would make the game substantially easier, and yeah, you'd be able to beat it faster, but would it be as satisfying to take down a boss? Would plays like this still be impressive? Now, imagine suggesting to your fellow Elden Ring players that, hey, maybe it might be more fun to try and learn their attack patterns instead of using this add-on, only to then have them loudly proclaim, well, dying over and over again doesn't sound like any fun. They'll tell you it's a stupid idea because the developers designed the game around this add-on's existence, and why even play without it? Imagine people saying they have to use this add-on because they have jobs and a limited time to play. And doesn't everyone deserve to experience all of the content? And how dare you, Mr. Hardcore Elitist, suggest that your way of playing is somehow superior? Using computational add-ons like this is very useful if your goal is to complete the game fast and with as little friction as possible. But do those things make for a more enjoyable experience? I don't really think so. One of the most universally fun experiences in gaming is challenge and mastery. People will play a difficult game for hours and hours to reach that feeling of excitement and satisfaction that comes from overcoming a tough challenge. But a necessary ingredient for that sense of achievement is a period of difficulty and even frustration preceding the win to actually feel excited about it. Increasing usability and making things easier won't give you that emotion at all. Shaving off the sharp edges is just a sure way to make sure your accomplishments feel meaningless and hollow. When I was gonna play Dark Souls for the first time in 2012, I visited the subreddit and sought some advice for newcomers, and I saw the same messages everywhere. Go in blind, don't use guides, get off the subreddit, and don't spoil it for yourself, and you'll be glad that you didn't. So I didn't, and you know what? They were right. The game was brutally difficult, but learning the mechanics and beating some of the tougher bosses was one of my favorite gaming experiences of all time. And many people would agree, just look at the success of the franchise over the years. So why are players prioritizing efficiency over fun if it leads to a worse overall experience? Why do we approach the game so much differently than we do other ones? Well, look no further than the influence of influencers on Twitch and YouTube to see why people's perception on what the game is really about has changed so drastically over the years. These thought leaders in the classic WoW space have demonstrated to their audience how the game should be played. Streamers have far more time and experience than your average player, and they tend to play in a way that circumvents a lot of the fun aspects of the game because they likely have different goals than you and I. For instance, they're supposed to be entertaining an audience. They're supposed to show off content that fewer players have a chance to see. For them, playing efficiently and stacking up achievements is just part of their job. But this has imparted a distorted perception onto the viewers that WoW is about best invest in slot gear, GDKPs, speedruns, and parses, when truly the best aspects of the game are centered around the social interactions with other players. If you think of your favorite memories that you have from the game, chances are really good it had something to do with the people that you were playing with at the time. The content in the game is merely a vehicle for these social interactions. So consuming WoW from a content-first perspective is a bit like eating the plate instead of the steak. What we're left with is a culture of bigger number, better person. Community in the game reduces you down to your item level and your parses, so there's this immense social pressure to keep up and not fall behind. You have tons of players who don't even remotely consider themselves speedrunners, rushing around as though they're trying to break some kind of record. It's not surprising at all that gold buying and GDKPs have become so prevalent when falling behind means there's almost no way to climb back up. And you know, I took part in this rat race too. When Classic first launched, I played non-stop. I got maybe 10 hours of sleep during the first week, and I spent the rest of the time AoE grinding dungeons. And as a result, I got into the #1 guild on Herod, and we got one of the first Ragnaros and Onyxia kills in all of Classic, which you'd think I'd feel satisfied after such an achievement, but I didn't. I quit within a couple of days. It wasn't worth it, and I regretted it deeply. Playing that way sucked the soul out of the game, and it was over for me after that. And maybe that playstyle is how you enjoy the game most, but maybe it isn't. Even if you didn't go to the same degree that I did, try taking a moment to examine how you intend to approach this new expansion. Is an efficiency-focused playstyle how you want to play, or is it how you think you should play? There's this myth that if you don't get ahead of the pack and rush through the leveling, then the game will be literally unplayable. If you take your time doing quests and exploring, then you'll be caught in a giant swarm of other players that makes it impossible to level. And maybe that was true in private servers, but Classic has phasing and scalable respawn rates that adjust with the number of players that are nearby. This really isn't something that you have to worry about. In Burning Crusade, I was 100% certain you would have to dungeon grind or you'd be weeks behind in leveling. But my guildies who went out and quested were leveling just as fast as I was spamming dungeons, and they were probably having more fun than I was too. So to me, the path forward is clear. Fresh is the way. The launch of these fresh servers represents not only a chance to start over on new characters, but to start over with a fresh mindset. Instead of mentally checking out and watching Netflix on your second monitor while mindlessly leveling, maybe get interested in the story a bit. Instead of rushing through the experience, see what it feels like to explore the world at your own pace. And I'm not saying you shouldn't go out and play efficiently if that's your thing. If you know that's where the fun is for you, by all means. I'm not here to say one way of playing is right and another is wrong, but really ask yourself if following guides and using add-ons is making it more fun or just easier. And that's why I started this guild called Blind. We're doing Wrath's raids without guides or weak auras or DBM because that way it'll be harder and therefore more fun and memorable. This is something I've wanted to do for years, and honestly, I was shocked by how many people showed up and supported the idea. I think it's important for people to know that when it comes to WoW, easy mode isn't the only option. If you want a challenging experience, it's out there waiting for you. Check the link in the description to join our Discord. We absolutely have room for you in one of our raid teams. As always, thanks for watching and stay safe.